What happened on the first day of testing at the Bahrain International Circuit did not attract attention due to a scandalous time on the table. There were no explosive headlines or grandiose statements from the Scuderia Ferrari box. But in modern Formula One, the details that really matter aren't in the timesheet. They're in the invisible data that only engineers know how to read. And from the first rounds of the SF-26, something began to go wrong. Ferrari did not go out to look for the fastest lap. The program was methodical, almost clinical. Medium stints, variable fuel loads, alternating engine map settings. But while other teams struggled to stabilize the balance under the new 50-50 energy split, SF-26 showed a surprisingly stable platform. There were no sudden oscillations when exiting a slow curve. There were no violent corrections in the steering wheel. The power delivery was progressive, linear, clean. And that, in a regulation where the electrical part has an enormous weight in the initial acceleration, is no coincidence. The first shocking sign appeared in the straight-line speed comparisons. The Ferrari was not only fast, it reached its maximum speed before the others. Approximately 150 to 200 meters earlier in certain qualifying simulation attempts. That means its acceleration curve is steeper. That the transfer of energy from the MGUK to the rear wheels is optimized to the millimeter. And the most disturbing thing, it was achieving it with lower energy consumption than several direct competitors. This is where the analysis gets really serious. In the new hybrid framework, energy efficiency is everything. It is not enough to have power, you need to manage it. And what the SF-26 patterns revealed was an extremely fine combination of heat engine and electrical system. ICE did not seem to be forced to work. There were no irregular delivery spikes. That suggests a much higher than average thermal efficiency. Translated, Ferrari is generating more performance with less energy waste. But the first day also left a clue about the car's philosophy. In certain short runs, the SF-26 showed a very aggressive electrical display in the upper middle part of the straight, especially around 280 km per hour. That additional kick allowed it to take off at top speed. However, clipping, the drop in electrical input, appeared before braking compared to some rivals. This indicates that Ferrari is prioritizing immediate impact rather than long-term sustainability of the rollout. It is a declaration of intent. The SF-26 is designed to hit hard at the key moment, especially in classification. It is an architecture that is committed to maximizing instantaneous performance, even if that means operating very close to the energy limit allowed per lap. If the first day at the Bahrain International Circuit was a silent warning, the second and third days of testing were confirmation that what the SF-26 is doing is no coincidence. It is an architecture deliberately designed to exploit the new energy regulations to the limit. On the second day, the most representative simulations began. Here it was no longer just about sensations on the track or stability in slow corners. Here real data began to be crossed between teams. And it was at that intersection where the data that generated the most impact appeared. The Ferrari was reaching record top speeds using around 30% less battery energy per lap compared to several cars powered by Mercedes. That, within the new 50-50 distribution between thermal and electrical power, is a huge positive anomaly. It means that the SF-26 heat engine is providing more than expected in pure efficiency. It's not just about raw horsepower, but about how much useful performance can be extracted for each unit of sustainable fuel consumed. Ferrari seems to have optimized the combustion to a point where the electrical part does not need to compensate as much as in other cars. The speed traces showed something very concrete. The SF-26 not only accelerates strongly when exiting corners, but its progression to maximum speed is more constant and less dependent on late electrical peaks. In comparison, other cars peaked later, needing a longer electrical deployment to match numbers. Ferrari, on the other hand, seems to generate the basis of that speed with superior thermal efficiency, using the MGUK as a surgical reinforcement and not a structural crutch. But this is where the story becomes even more interesting. Because when we analyze the qualifying simulation attempts, the SF-26 showed extremely aggressive electrical deployment in the upper middle part of the straight, especially around 280 km per hour. That momentary explosion allowed him to gain decisive meters. However, clipping appeared earlier than in some rivals. That is to say, Ferrari is consciously choosing to concentrate its energy at a strategic point on the straight, sacrificing the last few meters before braking. This reveals a very clear philosophy: immediate impact. Maximize lap time where it matters most. It is a solution designed for classification for a direct hit to the stopwatch. But that same approach involves operating close to the permitted energy limit. And when you get close to the limit, thermal management becomes the critical factor. The third day was the final exam. Here the most demanding long runs appeared, accumulating more than 150 laps in total in certain programs. And for much of the stint, the Ferrari maintained surprising consistency. There were no abrupt drops in top speed. No obvious patterns of battery entering conservative mode were detected. Recovery under braking seemed efficient, and the balance between regeneration and deployment was very well synchronized. But when the car was pushed to its absolute maximum, when the thermal demand reached its highest point, the warning signal appeared. Clear symptoms of mechanical stress and finally a breakdown that ended in a red flag. This moment changed the perception of the test, because it confirmed what the data already hinted at. The SF-26 has a very high performance ceiling, but its operating window is narrow. Ferrari is playing on the edge of the knife. To achieve that energy efficiency and devastating acceleration, the car works in very tight thermal ranges. If everything is in the perfect window, performance is superior. But if something moves even slightly, ambient temperature, degradation, traffic, the safety margin decreases. And this is where the rest of the paddock starts to get restless. Because if Ferrari manages to extend that window without losing efficiency, the SF-26 will not only be fast in qualifying, he will be consistent in the race. But if fragility persists, that same aggressive approach could cost abandonments at key moments. In these 3 days in Bahrain, we did not see a simple evolution. We saw a radical technical bet. A car built around extraordinary thermal efficiency, strategic electrical deployment, and a philosophy that prioritizes immediate maximum performance. After 3 days at the Bahrain International Circuit, it's no longer simply a question of whether the SF-26 is fast. The true dimension of what Scuderia Ferrari showed in Bahrain goes far beyond a good simulation or an eye-catching top speed. What the data left is an uncomfortable conclusion for the rest of the grid. Ferrari has understood the new energy balance before many, but it is walking an extremely fine line. The third act of this story is not technical, strategic. Because when a team discovers a structural advantage in thermal efficiency and electrical management, it doesn't just gain speed, gain strategic freedom. If the SF-26 really needs less battery power per lap to reach the same or higher speeds than its rivals, that means that in the race it can choose when to attack and when to defend with a greater margin. You can redistribute the deployment. It can force overtaking at unexpected points. You can pace yourself without going into economy modes as early as others. Ferrari appears to have designed the SF-26 to operate very close to its maximum optimum. There are no big mattresses. There are no excessive margins. It is a machine optimized to perform in its perfect window. But in a real championship, that window doesn't always remain stable. Temperatures change. Track conditions change. Traffic changes. And each variable can push the system outside of that ideal range. This is where the destiny of this bet is defined. If Ferrari manages to slightly extend that operating window without sacrificing efficiency, the SF-26 can become the absolute reference for the new hybrid regulation. A car that not only hits hard in qualifying, but also maintains the pace in the race without compromising battery or reliability. A car that redefines the way energy is managed in this new era. But if reliability continues to be the price to pay for that extreme efficiency, then the same concept that impacts the paddock today could become its Achilles heel. And the most disturbing thing is that all this was revealed in just 3 days of testing. Bahrain did not show us an impressive timetable. He showed us a pattern. A standard of superior energy efficiency. A pattern of forward acceleration. A strategically concentrated electrical deployment pattern. And also a pattern of stress when pushed to the limit. Ferrari wasn't just fast in Bahrain. Ferrari sent a message. The SF-26 is not a conservative evolution. It is a declaration of technical war under the new regulations. And now the rest of the teams have to decide if they try to copy that philosophy, or if they go for a more stable and less risky approach. Because when the real championship begins, it will no longer be about what the data promised. What the 3 days of testing at the Bahrain International Circuit left behind was not a simple positive impression. It was a technical revelation. The SF-26 was not only competitive. It showed a clear pattern of superior energy efficiency, earlier acceleration than most of its rivals, and hybrid balance management that suggests Scuderia Ferrari has interpreted the new regulations with a different depth. Ferrari demonstrated that it can reach record top speeds using less electrical energy. It demonstrated that its heat engine seems to be delivering extremely optimized performance. It demonstrated that the deployment of the MGUK is strategically planned to maximize the impact at key moments. And above all, he made it clear that the SF-26 has a very high performance ceiling when operating within its ideal window. In short, Bahrain did not confirm a domain. He confirmed an intention. Ferrari has found something. Something that has forced other teams to review simulations and rethink projections. Now the real story will begin when that efficiency has to face the real pressure of a championship. Let me know in the comments what you think about all this.